What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 10 of Spoilers Only. This is our first episode of 2022, so Happy New Year to all listening. Today on the show, we are discussing all things Matrix, including the brand new film that was released December 22nd, Matrix Resurrections. So we'll be discussing all four that are in the series and sharing our thoughts and whatever else happens. So let's get started.
So how did you feel about the new movie?
I have mixed feelings, I'd say. As someone who has never really been into the movies, like I just spent the past few weeks getting familiar with them and watching them like for the first time. And because I think when I was younger, I saw bits and pieces of the first one, but never really like followed through with them because I was never really into like science fiction type movies. But it was nice to go back and rewatch these, and especially the new one that came out because it was streaming on HBO Max. So it was fun to be able to see the new one right here in the comfort of my house. But overall, I thought it was good. I don't think it was as exciting as like maybe the first two, or especially like the first one, because I think in '99 when the first one was released, it's like a game changer for movies. Like everybody just always says, "Oh my God, The Matrix. Wow. What a franchise." But I feel like, it can get to a certain point where is it too much? Like are they kind of, overdoing it
Milking
or
it?
changing things? Yeah, like the way that the third one ended, it left you with questions, but now that you're looking at the fourth one, is it like, well, are they going to go on and do a fifth? Are they just going to keep
Hope
going?
not. I hope
I
not.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like to a certain point it might just be too much. But what was your like overall consensus of it? What did you think?
I felt like Matrix 4 should have never happened. It just, I don't know. With that movie, they just kind of doubled back on like the progress made in the previous movies, especially the third one, because like third one it should have stopped there. It was kind of a closer to the story because like there was finally peace in Zion, and there was peace between the machines and the people, and they were like, yo, we're gonna like let people out of the Matrix if they want to be let out, like we're
Mhm.
all good. And then they come back, what, 20 years later basically, with the fourth movie, and they're just like, hey, by the way, Agent Smith is back, even though he was killed in the first movie. I mean, not the first movie, but the last movie. And also the Matrix, it's evil again. We've got Neo in our clutches, and he's gonna, you know, be crazy. Movie
Yeah.
should have never happened. Movie should have never happened. But I
No,
guess reboot
I
city.
yeah, I get what you mean because I feel like how you said the third one ended with peace, and it wasn't it, it had like an ending where I feel like if you're a big time fan of these movies, you can get to a point where you're like, okay, this is good if they end it here because it'll get redundant, it'll go forward, it'll sort of mess up the story of how it is now because, but what I was going to say about the it coming back was the fourth one takes place 60 years after the events in the third one, and now Neo is a video game developer. And we were just talking before about how like one of my things I was confused about was what is the simulation and what is a video game, because now I feel like throwing video games into it, you can play so many video games that are like so realistic and look like, even like going back to The Sims, like that is such a realistic game for me, and that even feels like a simulation. Like that's a simulation game. I feel like playing games like that and then looking at how the Matrix is and thinking, oh, the Matrix, like how you were just explaining to me before, the Matrix is like his life is a game, like it's a game. It's like, what? My brain hurts. Like it's certain parts of it just didn't really click with me. And I hate that with a movie, because I know the first Matrix was put into the National Film Registry. So it's like such an iconic like film. And now that you have it just going on and on, I'm afraid, like you said, Reboot City, they could take a film like the Matrix series and just bring it back whenever and just like kind of uproot what everyone believed happened back in 2003 when the last one came out.
So basically, what happened in The Matrix 4, and if anybody listening, if you have not seen it for whatever reason, it starts off with Neo. He is back under the name Thomas Anderson. He's in the Matrix, but it feels like, it feels like real life, obviously. So he's back in the Matrix. He's like, he's not in control. He's not aware of anything anymore. And he is a video game developer, and he's, known for making this game called The Matrix. And basically, that was like the story of the first three movies, but in video game format. And it seems like, they want us to believe that, like, oh, the first three movies are video games in this universe. But no, they aren't. It's just basically, you know, that stuff happened, and then at the end of uh the third movie, he gets put back into the Matrix, and then in the Matrix, the programming, the story that they build around, the simulation, is that, oh, Thomas Anderson is a video game developer, and these memories that he has, they are delusions, which is why he's, seeing the analyst, which I don't understand why I get why they call him that, because he's a program, but whatever. We'll get back to that. So he's having delusions. He feels like, oh, this isn't real life. But everyone knows this as a video game. But to him, it's real life. It's really just a prison within his own mind. And then he breaks out, or they break him out again, out of the Matrix, and he's like, oh, I gotta get Trinity, whose name is Tiffany in this one, because she's, now just a character in the Matrix rather than an actual person drifting in and out of the Matrix to save people or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah. So basically the whole movie is just him going in to try to break her free from the Matrix, which I felt like was unnecessary.
Yeah, the character of Tiffany was like modeled based on Trinity and that like whole video game life thing. And I feel like if somebody was going to the theaters to see that or see this one, the fourth one, and if somebody was just watching it on HBO after not seeing any of the other ones, which you should not do. You should definitely watch them in order, even though, like you said, fourth one is not really necessary, but definitely watch them in order, because I feel like if I had just started with the fourth and then watched the first
story, it would make
and then
sense.
It circle back to it, that would just be, whoa, way too much. Because I know a lot of people who, if they're not necessarily into a film series, or if they haven't seen all of these films, or if they haven't seen them in order or anything like that, but just for the sake of going to the theater, they go and check this out, and then they go and they come out of the theater and they're like, what just happened? I have no idea what just happened. I have to come clean. That was me not that long ago about Avengers Infinity War, because I wasn't caught up with a lot of the Avengers movies before Infinity War came out, but I used to have Movie Pass. So I went and I said, you know what? I'm just going to go see Infinity War. And I was very confused. And of course, that was an insane movie. So as I leave the theater, crying, bawling my eyes out, I went home and I rewatched the Avengers movies, and then everything made sense. So when you're definitely getting into the Matrix, watch the first few before this. They're on HBO. I think I heard they were going to play them on the Sci-Fi Network as well if you have, regular TV, but they're on streaming. So go watch them, but be prepared to have mixed feelings about the fourth, because like you said too, it's just not really necessary.
It
Do you
was a
think
good
that
movie, don't get me wrong, but it's just
yeah, I was going to say, do you think that
money.
any part of the ending opens it up for another movie after this? Not that they probably should, but do you
I was
think that
gonna
it's
say
possible?
I think they left it to where it's like it can go either way. And I really hope that that's the last movie because listen, when you have a movie, a movie series, and the first one came out in 1999, the last two came out in 2003, or
Mm-hmm.
that was the next two. So 99 to 2003. Why do y'all wait till 2021 to release the fourth movie? That just sounds like y'all wanted money because the story was concluded. I'm sure everybody can agree that the story was concluded in 2003 with Matrix Revolutions.
Mm-hmm.
However, y'all decided to come back with Matrix Resurrections nearly 20 years later. Does that not sound like a cash grab to you?
I mean, it definitely seems like it's got all
you
of the
you guys just wanted to get Keanu Reeves back in the his role that like a lot of people know him about or know him from,
mhm.
and now we're just like, hey, we're gonna take Keanu Reeves and we're gonna make some more money. We shouldn't have. So we shouldn't have. It's a
Yeah,
good
I mean
movie.
that.
It was fun, but y'all didn't have to.
Yeah, and also on Rotten Tomatoes, it currently has a 65 from the critic score and a 64 from the audience score. So they're both about the same, and I've seen like a lot of the criticism has gone towards like visual effects, which when there's a movie and like trying to debate whether it's good or not, I always look at the visual effects and I say, well, you know what? Maybe the story wasn't all there, or there was a few plot holes, but visual effects, you definitely get some extra points in my book when it comes to visual effects. But I did
Well, they
see a lot of
changed some
criticisms
things.
for those. Yeah, I saw a lot of criticisms about that, and I think that probably influenced like the tomato meter on Rotten Tomatoes, and maybe it
Yes.
influenced some like fans, like OG fans, who went in expecting one thing. And I think also with the movie, the first one coming out in 99, and that was sort of like game changing in a way because things weren't as technologically advanced as they are now. I think, it was surprising to a few people, at least to me, that after going back and like watching the first one and then, all the ones that went after that, but then you go from the first one to the fourth and you think, well, 20 some odd years have passed since the first one. You think the special effects are going to be like huge. But, I kind of agree with the critics on that and say that, it wasn't as, they didn't really put the special in special effects. You can say that.
Okay, because here's the thing though. They changed some things which they aren't really key to the story, but I feel like they could have left it for continuity purposes and also just I don't know. It's just more conceptually appealing. So in the original movies, when they're, getting out of the Matrix and they're going back into the real world, they pick up the phone. But in
Yes.
this one, they just walk the mirror. I get like I get that there's like, some legends or whatever you want to call them that mirrors are portals to other worlds. However, they don't ever say that in the movie, I don't think. Because
Mm-hmm.
that would have been cool to say that, oh, it's because mirrors are blah, 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 blah. But instead, I feel like y'all should have just had like the cell phone thing. I think that was a pretty cool concept. I don't know.
Yeah,
And
no, I agree with you on
I
that.
feel like that's a lot less conspicuous for, if you were in the Matrix and then you just like see somebody like you see somebody on the phone, you're not gonna think anything of it. But like if you're gonna think something of it if you watch somebody crawl out of a mirror, like The Ring style.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think like in the one of the early scenes in the first ever Matrix movie was like Trinity um at the abandoned hotel, and when she's
Also,
fighting with them and she picks up that public telephone and that's when she vanishes. That's like one of the first things you see with the first movie, and so I think like you said, not keeping that phone thing in there,
they
it's a
start
bit
these movies off the
disappointing.
same way too, and I don't like that. Like all three movies start off with like like a conversation, you know, but they all start off with Trinity running from agents.
Mm-hmm.
Why? 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 That's not even like me complaining. It's just I genuinely want to know why do all these movies have like the same intro?
I mean,
They tie it into it
good
because like
question.
in this one it's like Neo, well not Neo, Mr. Anderson is reviewing video game video game footage that he created, and also in the other Matrix movies when Agent Smith is taking over the body of someone else because he's like teleporting, taking over, whatever you want to call it. He got like it was
Mm-hmm.
like this really weird effect that like he kind of merges into them. But in this one, their eyes just flash code signals, and that's it. Continuity? Is he morphing, or is the source? Listen, I don't know. I just feel like that was more visually appealing rather than like, oh, we're talking, and then eyes flash black with the green text.
Yeah. And something else was something that I saw like early on before I had seen the movies was I always knew the Morpheus character played by Lawrence Fishburne with the red pill, blue pill. I heard that he was not going to be in this one, and he was not in the newest one. Um, and I was reading some articles, and I guess he wasn't like asked back to be in it.
Oh,
Like he didn't get a call. So what do you think about him being missing? Because I feel like when people talk about the Matrix, they always, you always think of Morpheus and Neo, red pill, blue pill.
I was just
It's
thinking Morpheus was a really significant character. Okay, so in the Matrix 4, he is in the movie, except he's now a program created by Neo in the Matrix, like inspired by the real Morpheus
mm-hmm.
and Agent Smith, and it's like pretty much a combination of those two characters and how they like impacted him in the original story, in the original
Yeah.
Matrix. So I'm going to assume that the real Morpheus is dead, and they obviously bring the program into the real life, into the real world. So
Yeah,
it makes sense that I would say it makes sense that him being a program, it'd be a different person, but they don't really reference why he is different.
yeah.
At least
Um,
I don't think.
I was reading about like some theories as to why it was a like a program, and I read that um like a multiplayer online game, the Matrix Online, that was like a continuation sort of thing.
Mhm.
His character died in that, and some people think, like in the Matrix fan bases, that that's the reason why his character is not in the movie, like himself. Rather, it was like a program, like you said. So, like some people think that death was
Why would
fake.
why would
So
the video game be canon media? I because I googled it
I
as
don't
well.
know.
I was like, I Googled it as
Yeah.
well, why he was a program rather than, an actual person, or why Lawrence Fishburne didn't return, but I didn't know that he was not asked. Some suspicious. Anyway,
Mm.
so but I just think that it's really weird that, you know, he is a program. Like, it makes sense after reading on it, but if the reason why they had him return as a program rather than real Morpheus is because Morpheus dies in the video game, they should make direct reference to it in the movies,
Yeah.
because not everybody plays a video game, and also not everybody is going to play the video game. The game was from 2005. Not everybody would have played it and or remembered it. So to have the video game be canon, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And especially if there were like kids at the time who are growing up now and they're like super into the films and you know weren't around in 2005 with access to play a video game and they're like, "Oh, you know, where's Morpheus?" Because if you're going to bring back the movie like 17, 18 years later, you're going to try to pull out all the stops. So that it is interesting that he wasn't asked. And I guess maybe because the events take place, or it's 60 years after the events of the third, I guess. um Maybe, we're living in the future where everything seems to be digital, and maybe it's just like a nod to like a, super futuristic time. But I mean, it's definitely like an interesting thing, like you said, and for the video game to sort of act as like a bridge between 3 and 4 is a little strange.
Yeah, but also with so I just I cannot talk today. So it makes sense for Lawrence Fishburne to have been. It makes sense for Morpheus to maybe have been dead in that movie, just maybe from old age. I don't know, because 60 years has passed, and
Yeah.
we see that Niobe, um, I'm going to assume was in her 20s in the first movie, is now
Mm-hmm.
old as dirt in this one. Makes total sense that maybe Morpheus is dead, because he was, I would imagine that his character was just a little older than Neo and Trinity. So 60 years later, people are confused as to why and how Neo is still alive.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense that maybe he could have died. But again, they could have referenced that, so you're not stuck there with like open questions.
Yeah, and I think also like as a, being in the movie theater as opposed to being at home, watching it at home, you could just pick up your phone and Google real quick like, "Oh, where's Morpheus?" But if you're in the theater, it's against the rules to
Hide your
bring out
phone
your
in your
phone.
jacket.
Yeah, so
Or
you'd have to
do one of
yeah,
these.
right? So you'd have to wait like, however long this movie was, and then you
Two
get
and a
back
half
in your
hours.
car. Yeah. You get back in your car and you're like, "Oh, what was that thing I was going to Google?" Like you just forget about it.
That's why I like talking in movies. People hate this, but like I like when watching a movie, I like talking through the movie, because it allows me to express my thoughts into a specific scene in that moment, and we can have discussions through the movie, and not like distracting you, just in
Yeah.
passing discussion while watching it, rather than having to wait to the end, and then I don't even remember what I saw. I don't remember what I was gonna say.
You know what? Is there a chance that we're in the Matrix and we're the same person? Because that is me 100%. And so many people have gotten mad at me when I like talk during a movie. But if I don't say it, I'm gonna forget and it's not gonna make sense. Like, I mean, I have gotten into so many arguments with friends or family if we're watching something and I'm like, "Well, wait, I I gotta say this, and it's just pause, play, because I'm like, wait a minute, I need to like express the words. I'm gonna forget. That is like
There's a
so
possibility.
true.
I think we look alike too.
Well,
Identical.
people
No, no, no.
people listening, that they don't know. So, what were some other thoughts you had about the movie and how it sort of tied the first three into it?
There are just some things that I really don't understand about it, just because I feel like it wasn't clear, and I know the reason why. Cash grab, but like okay, so I thought the movie, like I said, I thought the movie visually, honestly, was good. They could have changed a couple things just to have it relate to the original story with like the phones, because I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
I just thought it was cool. And also the eye thing. I feel like, having Agent Smith like morph into the people was nauseating to look at in the old movies because special effects weren't that good, and also it just looked corny, but it was funny and it was nice to watch. Anyway, also, why is Agent Smith back? Why is Agent Smith back?
Cash
The,
grab?
the man was dead. That's okay. That story, that whole like that whole storyline with him, it should have ended when Neo killed him in the third movie in Resurrections, or not Resurrections.
Mm-hmm.
This is Resurrections. That was
Yeah.
Revolutions. There we go.
Solutions.
Too,
Yeah.
too many R words. Too many R words. Um, he should have actually died. Oops, hit my microphone. Should have actually died in Revolutions. Should have just ended there. Maybe bring back, no, not bring back, or bring in new characters if you guys are gonna, revive the storyline. Don't bring back an old guy whose story is gone. And also, why is he Jonathan Groff?
I kid you not, I saw that and I was like, King George? Because I mean, yeah, I'm a big Hamilton fan, but like it was so confusing. I was really confused. And also, does that mean that now that whole storyline with Agent Smith, like you said in the third movie, so is that just completely like voided out? Does it just like cancel itself out? It's definitely like I said earlier, it's more questions than answers because the way that with like you said continuity and stuff like that, if you're changing all these things, are you just going to come back for a fifth and just like mess it up some more?
I'm going to assume that it's because here's the thing though, these things were probably like mentioned in the actual movie and I just didn't pick up on it. And if it is, I'm sorry, but at the same time, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
But okay, so not Morpheus. Jeez, I'm doing it again. Agent Smith. I'm going to assume that he is brought back because the Matrix is rebooted with like a whole new coding. It's like a whole new world,
Yeah.
which is why, you know, Thomas Anderson's back in the Matrix and Trinity is now Tiffany and it's like a whole different world. I'm going to assume that since the Matrix was rebooted and they just brought back an old program. But he was defeated. So y'all should have just been like, okay, he killed Agent Smith. Done. That's that on that. And
Mm.
I just don't understand. I fully don't understand why, if, at the end of the third movie, Trinity's dead. That's unfortunate. It's nice that y'all brought her back.
Yeah.
That's cool. However, at the end of that movie, Neo, um, if Neo basically, freed Zion of worry, they were at peace with the machines and the Sentinels, and the machines, they were like, all right, cool, we're not gonna do anything. We all good. why did they put him back into the Matrix as well as Trinity to beat off of them again? For what reason? For what reason?
I mean, it's a very good question. I think that, like you had said, Trinity does die at the end of Revolutions. Yeah. See, that's really tricky because you got the Matrix and then you got Reloaded
Retributions.
and then
Where did I get that from? Where did I get that from?
Wait, isn't it Reloaded?
Yes.
Well, it's okay. It's very confusing anyway. But you have the regular Matrix and then Reloaded and then Revolutions and then Resurrections.
Where did I get Retributions
And the
from?
fact that Trinity dies at the end of Revolutions, and then how this movie ends with them like they were on a rooftop and they jump off and he's able to fly and she's able to fly and they're like a couple. Like it was because they've always had this like relationship between the movies. Like there's always been this like romantic connection between Neo and Trinity. I almost said Ninity and Trio, and I just got very confused.
That's their ship name. Do you notice that? I don't know what I was gonna say. Anyway, continue.
No, now I'm just laughing about that because you're right. That would be their ship name. Do people do that anymore? Do people still ship? Or is that like 2013, like Tumblr? Am I just like old?
I don't know. I think it is. I think it is. I think it's
Yeah.
still a thing. It shouldn't, but it still is. So.
But yeah, no, with it ending with like Trinity having like control over the Matrix and how you said in the third one it's like people can leave if they wish to leave. Um and with this ending as if they're going to like they can remake the Matrix as they want to. I mean, I know we've been talking about them making others, but like I would be very satisfied if they just ended it here. It doesn't need to keep going.
That brings my next question actually. If you were in the Matrix and you were approached by Morpheus, or just approached with an opportunity to wake up
I think
from
I know where
with
this is going.
red pill, blue pill, what would be your choose? What would be your option? What choice would you take? I don't know why it took so long for me to say it like that.
That's tough. It's a very good question. I think I would take the blue pill and I would forget everything and return to normal life, former life, because I think I feel like taking the red one and finding out everything about the Matrix um might be too much for my brain to handle, and I would be very scared. So I would probably choose blue out of fear.
I would choose red pill, but I would primarily stay in the Matrix because, like, okay, think about it this way.
Mm-hmm.
This is how I've always felt about this. They're in Zion, and I get like, they take pride in it because, like, we're free of control from, the system. However, y'all are sleeping in tin cans, wearing holy sweaters. You can't see the sun, and y'all are eating paste. I'll choose to live in the Matrix. However, I'm gonna come out like, okay, so how they have this little program to where they can install like any information that they want in your brain.
Yeah.
I would do that. I would do that. Like, give me like some skills, some whatever. But I would live out in the Matrix because at that point, when you are freed from the Matrix and you go back into and you plug back in, excuse me, you can control it. You can control yourself in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would alter the Matrix, like basically live how I would want to live. It's like Sims IRL, basically,
Yeah.
where basically your life is programmable to your own choices. And I get like people are gonna be like, well, you can do that in real life anyway because blah 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 blah, blah whatever reasons. Okay, but I can't do it at will. That in real life it requires effort. But if it was the Matrix, you can be like, all right, lobster dinner right here. Boom.
Yeah.
You can say that that's not how it works, but it's a sci-fi movie. It's fiction. I'm gonna say that's how it works.
No, I totally get what you mean, and I've asked myself that question before because I feel like it's the iconic thing about the movie is red pill, blue pill. That's what everybody associates with it. Um, but for me, my like overthinking side comes into play, and I'm like, well, you know what? I'm too scared. I'll just
I mean, I would
keep it
feel
how it
really
was.
weird. I would feel really weird if I was plugged into a machine, or knowing that I was plugged, my real body was plugged into a machine, and this isn't real. However, I think I would rather live in the Matrix, in a world where you have actual food,
Yeah.
you have a house and a role. Maybe like I don't want to be assigned a role in society, but it's nice having a place to live and actual good food to eat and clothes to wear, and you can
Yeah.
have your fun and you can do whatever you want because it's literally a giant computer game if you're making one, versus living in, like I said, a tin can, eating paste, fighting robots. No, thank you. That
Yeah.
sounds horrible.
No, I like how you put that, and I think like with the connection between Matrix and Sims, I've always thought of that, and I think like the only difference is like in the Sims, I don't think, or in the Matrix, I don't think you could do any cheat codes unless I missed something, because I love doing Control C simoleons.
Testing cheats true. And now we're in.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just feel like being aware in the Matrix is itself is a cheat code. Because I mean,
Hmm.
when they're basically programming their brains to learn fighting styles and they can like be like a master at anything in seconds, is that not like the skill level cheat in The Sims?
You've got a point. Yeah.
So, like I said, let me program. This sounds so. I don't know. This sounds like a thing, but I can't like pinpoint what it sounds like. Those weird like entrepreneur bro videos where they're like, learn to program your life. I hate those people. Moving on. But yes, I would love to program my life like as a computer game, like The Sims, rather than living in, having to worry about the sentinels and robot, I mean in Machine City. I
Yeah.
don't want to shoot at robots and risk like being blown up when I could be here. Like, so what, they're feeding off of my bodily energy. Consider it like a mutual thing because you guys provide me, a world that I can do literally whatever in. If I want to like program myself as a superhero, I can do that. I'm gonna do it. And you guys can have my energy. I take free will within the matrix and also genius enough to program it myself. You take body energy. That sounds like a fair trade to me. Imagine being able to like turn yourself into a superhero within, or like just not even a superhero, just somebody with powers. We're turning this discussion into that. And all they do is just like suckle all the brain waves out of your brain, the
That's
electricity out of
true.
your body.
This
I don't
this
know what
this
I'm talking
discussion
about.
has layers.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
But that's the thing. thing. See, that's the thing about the Matrix movies, though, is they really make you think. And they're very, that plays a lot of mind tricks, and you really get kind of sucked into this world. And it's just such an interesting world of film. And this is coming from a person who like I said, I'm not a huge sci-fi fan, like science fiction movies and stuff. Um, I'm definitely more into like maybe action or a comedy or drama, rom-com, that sort of area before I really get into science fiction movies. But it, it's definitely a very cool series. It's, even though there's a lot of plot holes and a lot of confusion with this new one, overall, I mean, it's pretty cool. And it's got some cool characters too, because Neo and Trinity are like really, really cool characters.
So,
So, I mean,
I was thinking, I
it's,
like all the characters, to be honest. It's just I just feel like the movie just really didn't need to happen. So it was
yeah.
yeah. I'm like on the fence with this one.
Yeah, I know, and it's cool to see them back, because that's the thing I always think of, is like when they're doing a reboot or when they're doing another movie and they're bringing back the same actors and the same characters. It is really cool to see them like reprise their roles after such a long time, and to see that, the stories still interest people and the actors are still interested in carrying on this character thing. But I'm with you, and I think that if it would just stayed the way it is fine. Because I mean, I know Keanu Reeves not just from The Matrix, but also the John Wick films. He's become like super popular for the John Wick franchise, and I think there's going to be four of those. Because I think maybe there's three that have already come out, and there's going to be a fourth one. So there's the same amount of John Wicks to Matrix movies, and it's great for him because he's popping up a lot. But I think John Wick is a lot different from The Matrix, but it's just an example of, you know, they can make a lot of movies and they can continue on characters, but sometimes it's not necessary. So while it could be cool to see people reprising roles, it's also, it can confuse things if you come back 20 years later and there's another Agent Smith and Morpheus is a program and Trinity is alive. There can be a lot of questions.
So basically, another thing that happens in the Matrix when they're
They
in
wear
the Matrix is they wear sunglasses. Um, excuse me. And my throat hurts. In this one, I didn't understand it because so the point I had to Google this. I just thought they just wanted to look cool. But so the purpose of them wearing sunglasses is to like mask vulnerability or something about their eyes being exposed and they like are like super vulnerable or whatever. Um, but in this one, they're just wearing stylish sunglasses. Don't get me wrong, they look super cool. I like the I like the personalization of them rather than them all wearing the same outfit in like latex clothes. All wearing the exact same thing, leather, and that's boring. But this one, they all had like their own little flair, and I think that was cool. But what's funny is some people have sunglasses that expose their eyes. So I'm gonna need you guys to issue a reason as to why. Because there was somebody with like light blue sunglasses with like light blue lenses. I can see your eyes. It defeats the purpose of the sunglasses. Again, I'm just nitpicking. I don't know. I just want to know if that's even really the reason why.
I have heard a lot of theories over the years, even before I actually watched all the movies and sort of understood certain things about the sunglasses. And although, I mean, it does look cool and it's such a recognizable thing, because I've always known like Keanu Reeves with the glasses and Trinity or Carrie Ann Moss. I've always seen them with the glass. Like I just, it's sort of just a familiar thing. Um, I've seen like some people say that if you like take the glasses off, it's like it's clarity sort of without the glasses. And I think, you know, maybe you can interpret it that way. I feel like you could interpret it a lot of different ways.
I think the last thing that I kind of wanted to touch on was just the fact that I think that their clothes look cool.
Yeah.
They all
agree.
had some neat fits, if I do say so myself. That's it. So, how overall how would you rate the movie? The last
I
one.
think
All of them.
oh, the
All, you know what? All of them. All of them.
all of
All of
them?
them.
Ooh,
All of them.
okay. Can I do like separate 1 out of 10 scales? Okay. So first one, I'm going to go 8 out of 10.
I would say that thing too.
Second, maybe 7 or 8 out of 10. Third one, 6 out of 10. Even though it was good, but I feel like just
kind of meh.
The more it keeps going, yeah. And then this newest one, I would probably do 5 or 6 out of 10, just because.
I agree with all of them except maybe the last one. I would say like a 7 out of 10. Like I said, it was a good movie. Don't get me wrong, it was a pretty good movie. However, didn't think it was necessary for the story. But
yeah.
I'm not gonna, not say it wasn't a good movie, but it was. So yeah, but probably like a 7.
Yeah, I can see that because I think I'm just thinking in like if it was like a standalone movie and there wasn't like a backstory, like how you had said, the visuals were cool, outfits in general, they're all cool, the actors are cool. I agree with that, but I think taking into account with the backstory and stuff like that, I would just have to give it a little lower just because I think like we were touching on in the beginning, I think that, certain things can be cash grabby and just unnecessary. So, but let's,
I just feel like if you come back for, to make another, add a movie to your series after like nearly 20 years.
So that wraps up our discussion on the new Matrix Resurrections film, which is now available to stream on HBO Max, and the other 3 Matrix movies. We hope you guys had a very fun time listening in and hearing us share our thoughts about the Matrix series and what's to come for them if they do decide to do more movies, which
hopefully
we hope
not. Oh.
not.
Be sure to follow us on our Twitter at Spoilers Only Duh. There you can check out our link tree to basically see everywhere we are available on, which is every major podcast platform, in case you were wondering. Share with a friend, share with an enemy, share it, send it to the president, anybody. Hope you enjoyed us.
Thank you so much again for listening, and this has been Spoilers Only.